And now, for more, it's a pleasure to welcome to studio senior Middle East correspondent Ariel Osseran and international affairs analyst Dan Perry, former Europe and Middle East editor at the Associated Press and author of the newsletter Ask Questions Later. Gentlemen, thank you both so much. There is so much to unpack. The midterms are quite a way off. What kind of options does Donald Trump realistically have right now in dealing with this?
I think he would like to buy time until the midterms, because after the midterms, he logically has greater freedom of movement because he doesn't have to fear the wrath of the U.S. voter, who famously is not enamored of the war. But a lot depends on what this looks like. If Iran appears to be serious in its seeming desire to restart the war, or indifference about forcing the U.S. to restart the war, I'm not sure he can wait 4 months in utter humiliation until that happens. There are two variables here. One, are the Iranians infighting somehow? Because how can it be that one hand says one thing and the other does the other? Is it duplicitousness, or is it chaos? We actually, I think, don't really know. And the other is, are they serious? Because if you zoom out a little bit, Iran seems to be saying that they're determined to not only end this war with the regime still intact, unbelievable, to end the war with them continuing to mess around on a nuclear file and control proxies around the region, and have the right to continue oppressing their people and receive hundreds of billions of dollars in various forms of reparations, unfrozen assets, eased sanctions. But they also want to profit from something they never had before, which is turning the Strait of Hormuz into the ATM. Now, the world can't allow that. They may not be serious. If we zoom out a little bit, they may be enamored with their reputation of being really tough and clever negotiators who invented chess. And consider the fact that for as long as they behave as they're currently behaving, and insisting to the world that there's a real disagreement in Iran and a lot of people really want to do this and make sure they get control of the Strait, well, we're talking about Hormuz and not about the nuclear file, and not about the other outrages that I mentioned. And they may find some profit in that. Maybe in the end, they agree to something the world can live with in the Strait of Hormuz, a registration and not a payment. But we will have forgotten about all the things that are in some ways more important that we should have been insisting on. So they're playing really, really hard, this negotiation game. My sense is they may be overplaying their hand. If they are serious, then it's a declaration of war, economic war, on the rest of the world. And that creates a completely different landscape from what we had on February 28th, when the U.S. started a war of choice, basically, didn't in any way coordinate with NATO. NATO might have thought it would get away, its member countries, unaffected. They were angry with Trump over Greenland and all the rest of it. But this now is very, very different. And I think they're flirting with an imposition of a land, air, and sea blockade, even before the midterms.
30 seconds till the break. Your thoughts, Dan Perry, on what we just heard?
I have to say, Iran could be calibrating. They're not currently under intensive, highly kinetic daily attack by the U.S. and Israel, which was the set of circumstances that provoked the massive attack on the Gulf. The fact that they're attacking at all is an outrage. It certainly suffices. They don't have to spend more rockets to make the point that that they're unafraid. Do we believe that? Could it possibly be so? If you're fanatical enough and suicidal enough, then perhaps yes.
Staggering claims from a U.S. Democrat lawmaker known as a vocal critic of Israel, Ro Khanna, claiming he was detained by armed settlers during a fact-finding visit to the West Bank before the army was called in to intervene. Still in studio, international affairs analyst Dan Perry. So Ro Khanna visiting the West Bank. There are many questions, pieces of the puzzle we don't know, the kind of security he had, the kind of authority he had to go into certain areas, but we do know that it was in a military zone. What do you make of the headlines coming from this man who is eyeing a spot in the Oval Office down the line?
I make that this is a kind of story where there are no good guys at all. Let's begin with Ro Khanna. What on earth is he doing in the West Bank? I mean, he's a congressman from California. Perhaps Israeli candidates should go to California and investigate lawlessness in greater Los Angeles County. This is a provocation, and he was hoping that someone would do him the favor of detaining him or oppressing him or in any way giving him a chance to make headlines so that he can bring bad PR to bear upon Israel and consequently good PR for himself, because unfortunately, his wing of the Democratic Party, still a minority wing but growing, is at this point, openly and extremely hostile to Israel. So to mock Rouhana for the rather pitiable, transparent effort to create a provocation for political benefit back home is easy. The bigger picture, of course, for Israel itself, is that the situation in the West Bank is indefensible in many, many ways. And the crown jewel on the rancid cake of indefensibility is these Jewish vigilantes/terrorists who Netanyahu seeks to diminish in his appearance on American television, but that is gaslighting. The truth is, of course, the majority of any population is innocent, no matter how bad things get. The question is who's driving events. I don't know if it's 150 or 1,500 or even more, but there is a very well-organized cadre of Jewish radicals in the West Bank who, sad to say, have done pogroms against Arabs, Palestinians that have sometimes turned deadly, and which the government, if not enabling them, has turned a blind eye and tolerated. Almost none of them have been arrested. Very few, if any, have been prosecuted. And Netanyahu, who leads a security establishment that was able to locate, with pinpoint accuracy, the location of Ali Khamenei and about 4,000 Hezbollah guys with their beepers, can't find the Jewish vigilantes in the West Bank. It is a disgrace. It's one of the many, many reasons why so many patriotic Israelis are viscerally opposed to this government. So who's more in the wrong? Netanyahu for seeking to diminish this, or Rouhana for executing a transparent stunt that is aimed at undermining the very important strategic relationship between Israel and the U.S.? I don't know, but no one comes out smelling like a rose.
I wonder how much of a success the stunt really would have, though. It's not like there would be huge outrage about what ostensibly happened. I'm not sure how many people in this part of the world would believe he was detained, as he used in terms of his description, but we wait to see the details of the actual incident. And again, the kind of security he had ahead of time. But on a broader level, the question remains about Democrats eyeing the Oval Office. Do they really need to come to Israel to hammer down how opposed to Israel they are in order to garner more and more support in the U.S. right now?
Do they need it? I mean, to suggest otherwise is to tell politicians not to politic. They obviously find it profitable. And Israel's news. There's really little doubt that the Israel-Gaza, Hamas, Palestinian, and broader Middle East issue had a significant impact on the U.S. election. No doubt about it. The fact that they were able to turn that into a wedge issue in the U.S., harming the Democrats oddly, both with Muslims in Michigan and with Jews in Pennsylvania, that did not help the Democrats. It's quite clear that Israel's a major thing right now, and it really is sad to see, because you have genuine anti-Semites on the far right whose anti-Semitism drives a version of isolationism, bad for Israel, bad for American interests. And by the way, Lindsey Graham stood against that, and in that regard, his absence will be felt. And on the far left, the hatred of Israel has become an animating principle. It drives them way too much to be seen as anything other than a pathology. And so we see that. But I would distinguish between Rouhana, who is a progressive, whose supporters hate Israel, and that's a dog whistle, and Rahm Emanuel, who I believe you were alluding to before, who arrived a few days earlier and basically took a stand against Netanyahu. Same Netanyahu, who Amir Whiteman predicted is going to badly lose the coming election, because many Israelis understand that there's a problem. Rahm Emanuel came here to explain even better what the problem is. He's from the old Democratic center. He is trying to save something by promoting, centrist Zionist ethic in Israel that, were it to come back to power, might help restore the special relationship. So very different, the centrist liberal Emmanuel and the progressive Rouhana.
Dan Perry, always appreciate you being here in studio. Thank you very much for being here as part of the Rundown.